Hello everyone, today we'll be taking a look at a recent VFX shot that I did for Who's There, a horror short film by Sören Schulz. If you haven't seen it yet, go check it out so you don't spoil yourself. The link is in the description and an info card should have popped up too. Don't worry, I can wait for 2 minutes. Great, now that you've seen it, let's take a look at what I've done. This is the final shot. And this was the original. This was a spontaneous shoot and idea. Also, we didn't actually want to make something that took too long. We already made a short film together, which took ages to be completed due to the VFX. And this was supposed to be quick and dirty. So we shot a real hand coming through the slit, planning to just recolor it and maybe morph it into a creepier shape. But we discarded that idea quickly as it wasn't working and not even a little bit scary. So we decided to replace the hand entirely with a CG hand. I started in SynthEyes doing a match move of the camera. Because SynthEyes can decode B-RAW, I could simply use the original Blackmagic RAW files and track the whole shot in 6K, although I later created EXRs to work in Fusion. 0.9 is a solve error that I am usually not happy with, but the planes I placed down seemed to stick quite well, and as I mentioned before, this was a quick and dirty project. I assume the high solve error is partly due to the low parallax in the scene, and also because there was a very slight but fast bouncing from the slider being mounted on a single tripod. After I used Blender's sculpting toolset to modify a base model of a hand, I went into Houdini for rigging and animating. I used the new-ish KineFX toolset and quickly drew some points using the skeleton node. Houdini's biharmonic weighting is incredible and it gave me amazing results as always. I only had to manually fix the nails to only be influenced by the last joint. Everything else was biharmonic weights without modification. For the animation I created IKs for each finger and animated mostly using just the tips of each finger set to world space. I also created a lot of sliders to switch between world and local space as well as FK and IK, but I barely used it and 90% of the animation is IK set to world space. This made it really easy to animate the hand gripping on the door and being stuck in a slit. Rendering was also done in Houdini using Mantra, so I imported the camera match move from SynthEyes. The materials are mostly procedural noises and the veins wop. The most interesting bit is probably the animated normal and displacement maps that I've used to create the wrinkles on the finger joints. I originally hoped to use blend shapes for this, as the geometry was quite dense and I'm not a good painter, but the strong movements of the polygons was too visible and created issues in combination with single scatter subsurface scattering. So in the end I used Quixel Mixer to paint wrinkles in the model and soften and process them in Fusion, as Quixel Mixer is still very buggy and bare bones. In the materials I let the blend parameters for the normal maps be driven by the blend shape parameters because I had already animated them. I also let ambient occlusion be calculated for the hand and door separately. While ambient occlusion is usually an outdated way of creating shadows, this was actually really helpful here to create some darker and soft shadows right around the hand that are a little bit darker than the original shadow. Next, I created some holdout geo and matte boxes to achieve the necessary light. As I mentioned earlier, I rendered this in Mantra and then I went into Fusion for compositing. Most of this was pretty standard, like removing the original hand and shadows, for which I used the same 3D match move I created in SynthEyes and imported into Fusion. I rendered most passes separately, which was probably overkill, but I did tweak the colors and the scatter a little bit. Most difficult was probably the shadow, as it needed to be hidden or at least not be darker than the original shadow in the scene, except where the hand and the door actually touch. So I ended up using a custom tool to create a darken multiply merge mode. It works exactly like the darken blend mode, but instead of copying the darker pixels of B, it multiplies the value of B with A. Using just the darker blend mode would have lost the original door's details and completely replaced that with the shadow pass. And that's pretty much it. Of course, we didn't find the look and animation on the first try, so I'll put some work in progress shots in here as well. Sören also wrote a short blog post about the short film, which I linked down below, and see you soon.